Welcome back, everyone, to the first episode in a long time of a Whole New World podcast. I'm so stoked to be back. And tonight, guys, we're going to talk about the newest dev video, the December development video that just came out this morning. And I've got somebody who I'm really excited to introduce to all of you. The one, the only, Fairuza joins us tonight. Fairuza, what is up?
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here.
Guys. So Fairuza is like an OG member of the New World part of my community. She started watching. When did you start watching the podcast? Was it like? Was it April?
Right when it first came out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She's an OG, guys. She's been around since this brainchild started, and so I'm actually really happy that she was able to jump in on such short notice tonight and join me for the first episode back. This is gonna be the format going forwards, guys. As my thing twists, this is gonna be the format going back forwards. It's gonna be me and a guest host, just two people, no more big groups of three, and content. And we're gonna discuss the latest and greatest things about New World whenever New World gives us big news. When big news comes out, you bet your bottom dollar within a day or two, we'll be covering it. All right? And I'm honored that Fairuza is the first one back because she's been here through it all, guys, through the start. And how excited are you about the next roadmap that they gave us today?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I was kind of apprehensive about some of the things that they left out, but overall, I'm stoked, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they kind of will put in, even though they haven't talked about.
You know, funny enough, I think that's my take, is I'm more frustrated on what wasn't even there, what they didn't talk about, because I was expecting some things. I was legit expecting some things, and we didn't get it, which is weird because they gave us quite a bit last month's update and then nothing about it. So, and that's specifically like open world PvP and faction territory control stuff. They gave us stuff about territories, nothing to do with the conquest of it, and taking territories, defending territories. But what they did cover. What? I'm sorry?
I'm right there with you. I think that it's like okay, we went from A to C, and where's B?
That's kind of what it felt like. I don't know if they're just not ready to show us, if there was setbacks, if they changed their priorities or what. I mean, they don't even talk about, like, Fairuza was telling me earlier, they took I just made that video about leaderboards last week, guys. They took the leaderboards off the PTR today. PTR had an update, a new build, and they took the leaderboards off. And they don't talk an iota about leaderboards in this video from today. So I'm like, whoa, what happened? So clearly leaderboards aren't even close to ready because they didn't even touch it in today's video. And it was in the PTR for a month, right? Like a decent amount of time.
Yeah, it was there for, I want to say, at least 2 patches.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I made that video, guys, and it felt pretty dang fleshed out. So I don't know if they got specific feedback. I know I've seen the threads in the forums about leaderboards, like the mega forum or the mega post. And a lot of people had some things to say, but I didn't see anything that seemed like they would be like, no, we have to go back to the drawing boards or we've got a lot of work to do. So I'm kind of surprised by that move. But enough about what we don't see, because we can't really talk about that because we don't really know what's going on. Let's talk about what they did give us. And they gave us a pretty short, bland episode. Some cool things. Don't get me wrong. They talk about they gave us the next expedition, which they said is going to be a two-parter, which is kind of cool. They talk about the Winter Convergence Festival, which is what we'll talk about first. And they actually, guys, they're updating the Winter Convergence, and they're giving us a new boss that operates a lot like Turkalon. And what was the other guy's name? Belfazad or whatever.
Yeah,
that guy. And yeah, so they're adding a new boss, the Winter Soldier, which is kind of what the whole events like around. It's around the Winter Soldier? No, Winter Warrior. Winter Soldier is is an Avenger.
I was gonna say, wasn't that a Marvel thing?
That's an Avenger. Oh boy. The Winter Warrior. So what we're gonna do tonight, guys, we're gonna simply go through the video in pieces. It's divided into 3 chunks. We're gonna watch stuff. We're gonna pause. Me and Fairuza are gonna chat. I'm gonna ask her some questions. She's gonna give me her opinion, and then we're gonna watch and repeat. Is everyone down with that?
I sure am.
Good. Let's get this party started. I'm gonna pause the music. We're gonna skip the actual. Watch the whole thing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the December video.
I love this intro.
Hey everybody, welcome to the December. Okay, I won't start with you like this.
Are you sure? Because I did.
Wait a minute, man.
Ready, set. Hey everybody, welcome to the.
Katie's lovely. Isn't Katie wonderful?
Are we still rolling? Let's get.
Yes, she is. She's a doll.
I love.
Hey everyone, welcome
I
to the
Katie.
December dev video.
She's got just
update.
enough
Super
snark to
excited
make
be
her
here with Dave and Katie.
real.
We have a lot to share
to
today.
make her real.
We're going to talk about the Winter Convergence Festival Part 2, which is our second edition of that. We're going to talk about some of the changes coming for territory control. We have a new expedition, and then some other little announcements to give you. And if we have time, we'll get to it, the roadmap. It should be a pretty exciting show, so let's get after it. Roadmap! Sorry, I got excited about the
This dude loses his mind to half his video. I'm not even kidding.
He ruined it.
Varful, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Verifielli loses his collective mind on like 3 or 4 occasions in this episode, guys. It's kind of funky.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. I love it. I love Verifielli. His attitude.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Mike Willett here. I'm joined by Sean Puckett and Chad Redwitz, and we're going to talk about some of the cool stuff that's coming out this December. And I think I want to kick things off with Winter Convergence. So it's going to be year 2 of Winter Convergence, and we have one significant addition that's coming this year. But just to recap, it's our Winter Festival that takes place in Eternum during this time when the Northern Lights come out and giant gleamites just start falling from the sky, and you collect presents. I
love
the
Gleamite.
Winter Wanderer who's trying to prevent the.
If you've never been around when Gleamite like strikes Eternum, it's freaking cool, dude. It's a meteor.
Oh. I just love that how they've transformed the sky, like with the aurora borealis. And
Yes. Agreed. They New World looks pretty cool during the Winter Convergence.
Winter from occurring on Eternum. But this year, we're bringing the Winter Wanderers in Eternum during this time when the Northern Lights come out and giant gleamites just start falling from the sky, and you collect presents, all for the Winter Wanderer who's trying to prevent the forever winter from occurring on Eternum. But this year, we're bringing the Winter Warrior. He's the big baddie. Chad, why don't you tell us about this big baddie who's going to just start invading the world?
Yeah,
Should I feel wrong that his name is Chad? The way he says it, like, Chad, and I was like, whoa, his name is Chad.
He's trying to ruin everybody's fun.
Not gonna lie,
so,
I had that
the
exact
Winter
same
Warrior
thought.
is another
I was like,
large
wait,
format
said that?
enemy for,
I just
for all
messed
you players out there.
everything up.
So similar to the Halloween event.
I'm fixing this for
Definitely
you. You
plan
should
on
hear it
bringing
now.
lots of your friends, shooting for somewhere in the order of 15 to 20. So it takes a good amount of people. He'll be spawning out in the world in multiple locations, just like Halloween.
Did it?
And he's a big giant fight. So he's out there. He's got lots of little kind of minion friends out to help him out in the fight.
The frigid folk.
The frigid folk, the ice dryads. So
I
he
love
himself,
their names.
has lots of
Frigid
fun, kind of
folk.
challenging abilities. He'll be raining down
They look
these big giant
a
hailstones,
lot.
creating shockwaves to make them explode.
They look what?
And generally
They
making
look like
life,
there's a lot of
everyone's-
them. I think it's going to be hard.
It's gonna be a lot. I think it's gonna be like an ad fight, a lot of ads.
lives a little bit of trouble.
He's trying to bring forever winter, so he's got to bring the ice, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, he's a nice big event there, pretty meaty, and like I said, bring lots of friends and should provide a lot of fun.
I'm very excited because it's also bringing some new rewards and a whole bunch of quests. But again, what's awesome about this time of year is what happens to all the surroundings, including the settlements. Sean, what was kind of like our inspiration and like how we drove to the visual look of our settlements?
All right, we're gonna stop right there. We're gonna talk about the Winter Warrior. So, New World. I'm gonna talk a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Fair. New World has a pretty consistent theme to their events so far. They kind of cover all part of the year. I was actually telling Fairuza before the stream, I was like, I don't like how often they have events happening. I feel like I'm just not enjoying New World normally very often. Maybe it's just my perception. But what they do is, are their events. According to a lot of things I've seen, even on like websites, people who write articles, apparently the word on the street is that New World actually does events relatively well. They're short, they're relatively easy to obtain. The quest line, it's not a grind, though you can grind if you really want some cool rewards that are only exclusive at those time of year. So those things become relevant to getting it then and now. But also the fact that they have. Where was I going with that? My brain just broke. That they don't feel like a job. That they don't feel like you're actually stressing yourself out to do an event. You're actually really enjoying it because it's super low key and easy and it's fun. And part of that recipe now is becoming large bosses, which I know that they've wanted to drop bosses into towns and stuff. They've done it on the PTR before. They've literally dropped like a giant, what's his name? Thorpe in the middle of Everfall, I believe, once on the PTR. So they're kind of getting this big boss thing down. Like I said, they have Belphazid. They have Turkalon. This is the second time they had Turkalon now. And now they're bringing it to the Winter Convergence. And my question is, do you think that the bosses are fun enough that they should keep doing them like this? Or do you think they should maybe diversify what they do for each event? Do you think that ultimately matters? I've actually never done any of them, so I can't input on how fun they are, but I know for a fact you have. So I'm going to ask you, do you like the ones they've done so far? And so, if so, you're kind of excited that they're doing it in Winter, or you're like, you know what, they're all kind of the same thing, I'm over it.
Really like the implementation of the quote unquote world bosses into the events. I think number one, it breaks up the grind. Like last year for the Winter Convergence, basically you ran around collecting Gleamite and presents and like the little bit of the quest line. This year, we're going to kill the boss. I'm assuming he's going to have some rewards that are going to be, similar to like the Halloween event where you're going to get like a currency to spend for, various rewards and stuff. It just kind of brings a little bit more of the community aspect to it because you're fighting a boss with a bunch of people. Everybody's calling out, oh, hey, he's up in Brightwood or he's in Weaver's Fen or wherever he's going to spawn. So I really enjoy those aspects. Plus, I like the fact that it kind of opens the door for like real world bosses in the future, like, big event bosses for not just, tied to a holiday or whatever, but something like a giant Thorpe spawning somewhere.
So your take actually is that them implementing giant bosses in the different holiday events are actually a proof of concept for a bigger idea.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
So I like what you have to say here. I didn't think about we're doing an event, there's a holiday, and it brings people together. I'll be honest, I don't even go fight the turkey. I can't tell you how often I see in chat, turkey's in northern, Brightwood. He's just outside Weaver's Fen. Like people are chasing this thing everywhere, and they kind of communicate and do it together. So now that you mention it, yeah, I bet it does a really good job. Like when you're fighting Turkalon, how many people are around?
Oh, there can be a lot. I think the most I've seen is probably 50-ish.
Wow.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, that is. That's like that's a half a war. That's a lot of people. Wow, that's really cool. I never thought of that. Okay. That seems fair. Another recipe again is that they've got a system that basically they repeat every holiday. when it comes with getting tokens. The way you do it, you go to the token person, you can get nicer tokens. You can collect things to trade them in for tokens. For winter, it's presents and gleamite. For the summer medley fair, it's sturgeon and maudlin bug dust, or whatever it's called, the dust. And they pretty much repeat that recipe when it comes to getting the different loot items that you can, whether it's skins for gear and weapons, different furniture pieces, as well as they add emotes into the rewards. So it seems like they're heading in this direction. They're kind of just repeating a very similar idea in each holiday. I don't do them that much, so I don't really care how it's done. And you know what I mean? And if people who do it like it, then great. I do like seeing like the Northern Lights and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. It'll be interesting. He doesn't look super easy. They show you part of the video. He's got a lot of mobs on him. I love that they're called
he
frigid
looks
folk.
difficult.
I love that they're called frigid folk. They're like frosty Angry Earth. Kind of funny, not gonna lie. Anyways, carrying on.
What happened
So we started with the Aurora Borealis. We wanted to bring something.
drove to the visual look of our settlements?
Well, the thing about Winter Convergence this year is because this is our second time go around. So when we discussed it last year, we really wanted to bring something bright and festive to New World, to Eternum. We wanted something colorful. We started with the Aurora Borealis. We wanted to have our own color theme to what winter looked like, or what a holiday looked like in Eternum. So we have our purples and our teals and our gold colors. Every settlement gets decorated with all of these decorations. And then what's great about this year is like Brimstone Sands. This is Brimstone Sands' first event. So Brimstone's is fully decorated now.
It's gonna feel like the holiday in July. Like everything's like
Holiday in
hot
July.
on the outside, and then it's really cold on the inside. It got all these
Icy
cool
deserts.
colors, yeah.
Nice contrast.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I've already seen what Brimstone looks like, and the settlement looks amazing. And I know that we introduced some new skins, and we've introduced a lot of new features, and we've just like really scaled up what Winter Convergence was last year, and made it better for this year, and make it new for returning players, make it fresh and big for players who maybe haven't experienced it yet.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. And that's a great add to this December. But there's one other special treat that we have in store for everybody. And hopefully you had a chance to play it in the PTR. It's the Starstone Amrine mashup. And so we know there was a lot of requests.
I'll be honest, I don't know why he talks about this right now, because we're talking
Yeah,
about
it seems
Winter
weird.
Convergence. Let's jump on to when they talk about it here. Because they do. They talk about it over here, I believe. Right? Or should we?
Mashup. And so we know there was a lot of requests to have a lot of our early game expeditions available for late.
I guess we could jump right into it, because he does. So for the next part of the video, guys, he starts talking about the new mutated dungeon that they're gonna make called what are they calling it? I don't remember. It's a mashup of Starstone Burrows and Amrine Excavation. They're literally making it one full dungeon, so that they can turn it into a mutated dungeon, which is going to be very interesting. So he's going to talk about that here. I don't know why he's jumping into it all of a sudden, but he does.
Starstone Amrine. You had a chance to play it in the PTR. It's the Starstone Amrine mashup. And so we know there was a lot of requests to have a lot of our early game expeditions available for late and end game players. And so we spent a lot of time looking at like, okay, well, how do we get it to that parity? And Starstone and Amrine are connected in the lore. And as a matter of fact, you see
They're connected
in certain
literally.
areas, like the connections and the paths in the background that actually link the two locations together. And so what we did is within Starstone, you have to go through that entrance, you have access to this mutation, which now expands it, and now it includes the fight with Foreman Nakashima and Simon Gray. So that's added to this experience, and there's some new routes that you have to go through the Starstone expedition itself. And so now it's this all-encompassing kind of endgame activity, still intact with the cool lasers and unique puzzles, and also with the fight with Grendel, but now it's it's been leveled up for end gameplay.
Yeah, I'm super happy we were able to revisit that. 'Cause a lot of people didn't get that much time to enjoy it, especially with kind of our new leveling curve. It's really quite quick, which is great, but you don't get to spend as much time in those expeditions. So it's really great to be able to revisit them.
So hopefully everyone gets a chance to play it in the PTR. Love your feedback. And then as well, as soon as it goes live, it's going to be right into the rotation. So we're super excited about that. So thanks, guys. And everybody, we'll see you in a tournament.
So, I don't do mutated expeditions. Another confession of mine. For those of you who are new here, I just PvP in this game. It's literally it. I haven't done Tempest Heart. I haven't done Barnacles and Black Powder. I haven't done the Ennead once. Not even on normal. But this sounds kind of neat either way. I actually think Starstone Burrows is a really cool dungeon. When they made it with the lasers, etc., the use of the Azoth staff thing to protect yourself from the lasers when you can't bypass them. So this is pretty cool. How do you feel about this becoming a mutated expedition? And do you think it was necessary? Like, I think it was important.
Like you, I have never stepped foot into a mutated expedition. I barely run regular expeditions. This is like totally out of my bailiwick. I am.
I don't even know what that is.
It is not my expertise at all.
Okay.
So I really don't care.
Well, neither of us give a crap, but I think I think it was necessary. I feel like I agree with their take, especially with the new fresh starts. That leveling in New World now is so fast that people don't jump into Starstone or what's it called? Burrows very much. Like they just don't. Starstone and Amrine. My goodness gracious. And there's a lot of replayability there, I think. And I mean, you have a lot of dungeons, a lot of expeditions that are mutated. I'm trying to do two things at once right now. This is not working out. There we go. I did it. I'm trying to do something. There we go. My gosh. Oh, you didn't see that. Nope, no one saw that. There we go. And we're good. So, where was I? I think Amrine Expedition and Starstone Bros are quickly forgotten and unutilized after, level 30, basically, level 35. And they were fun. They were relatively easy and simple, but I really enjoyed the lore as well as the mechanics of Starstone. I think Starstone's a really cool expedition. So I will be interested in this. I will give this a shot just because I actually enjoyed those expeditions. I'll eventually get into mutated expeditions. That will happen. I just wonder when. I know some people will absolutely adore this, though. I know certain people like Eagle Garrett and what's his name? Chess Coach love mutated dungeons, M10s, etc. They're probably gonna love this. So I'm excited that they're finally getting to go into these early expeditions and see what it's like if they were difficult. This is where I thought they were going to talk about...
Welcome.
I was convinced, this freaking intro, I was convinced they were going to talk about stuff during this, and they just didn't. I was really disappointed. This intro.
Welcome. We're going to talk a little bit about territory mechanics and talk about 3 different changes we're making to it. With me is Dan, the social lead. Nice way. Rachel, one of the designers.
Says you who introed like this.
All right, let's talk first about shell companies. They're definitely a problem in New World. We're starting to take some action.
I think everyone feels that way.
What we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I realized that before we haven't really talked about first what shell companies are. So maybe
what are
what
shell
are
what
shell
are
companies?
shell companies?
Lots of turtles, right?
Lots of turtles.
Oh, turtles.
Yeah, so shell companies are when a company will make a little offshoot tiny company to go around in the world and try to own multiple territories.
I don't know where the term shell company started.
They use the different companies
wonder.
to get around some of our
The war window
rules, the war windows, and
just like
circumvent those things. And
real
so
life
we're making a few changes to
Yeah,
help
because like
mitigate that.
a big company will have
issue.
a bunch of smaller
The
companies
first
that they
one
do
we're
business under
doing is a
Oh.
company
for
leave
sometimes
cooldown.
nefarious
So for
purposes.
72 hours after you leave a
Interesting. I
company,
didn't know that.
you won't be able to participate in any territory control activities with another company.
So you can't
So
jump
things like
around
the
to other
influence
companies.
game,
Right.
wars, things like that.
Yeah,
That one I
exactly.
think
Still
is
join another
is
company,
necessary.
run around, have fun.
Because
Absolutely.
now we see people just kind of have like 5 companies. They'll just kind
Right.
of just go
Yeah,
around
you know,
them
like
all
kind
day
of-
long. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to prevent that. It's not really how we
I've never been in a company
intended
that's
that
done
gameplay
that.
to be
Well, so
made.
let me explain how. So imagine 15K has 3 shell companies, so they can own 3 territories to have 3 different war windows. We're like, well, they have to have 40 people of the roster fill it. Well, they'll just change to the other company. They'll just change according to which territories is at war. They'll just switch to that shell company. So instead of filling the roster and they're all staying in one company, and the other companies are literally just placeholders, and they just fill the rosters with their mains in their main company, they'd have to shift to the correct company, and they would just bypass the system then. Now they can't even do that because the moment they leave their company, they can't participate in a war if they join a new company. So this pretty much kills shell companies dead in the water. That move right there, which I hadn't heard them talk about until this episode, and I'm really glad they did it because it literally does. There's no bypassing their system now, at least that I can think of. People will probably figure something out, but for the most part, this specific change nips it in the butt. I agree, Hipley. I think out of all of the things that prevent shell companies, I actually think this one, funny enough, they're just talking about it now. This is the one that actually kills it. Because you're stuck where you are, basically. So then once you control, shell companies, which they're doing, I think, let me rephrase, these changes work great in tandem, okay? And the other change they're about to make. Exactly. Everyone, except for the freaking people in the shell companies, everyone else is happy to see them die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a weird phrasing. We'll keep going. And then we're going to...
It's only weird if you call attention to it.
She called it weird.
And then we're also doing a war roster limitation. Do you want to talk about the war roster?
I don't agree with these.
Yeah, so
I don't agree with the numbers they chose. I was telling Fair beforehand, I feel like the numbers shouldn't be different, but they are, and relatively significantly different. I would say impactfully different. How about that?
The change of the cooldown, that wouldn't really accomplish much if you didn't have. So basically, what's going to happen is in order to fight a war, especially on defense, it becomes important so that you have to fight the war as the company.
Which I
The way we're gonna
always
do
thought
that
should have
is,
been a thing
with
anyway.
a mercenary
To be
limit.
honest,
So a mercenary being somebody like
Absolutely.
not from the company. who's
they already
fighting
do
the
it
war, which we like.
with what's it called,
We wanna see that.
invasions.
We want people to be able to especially defend their faction. But when you're on defense, the number is 10. You get 10 mercenaries to use in a war. And then when you're on attack, this is something we adjusted in PTR. When we went out, we set that at 40 because we like the idea of companies being able to recruit.
Which is a decent chunk.
Like let's go get a territory. And we want to try to keep that in. So
That's
it's
80%
still
of your war
less,
roster.
than on defense,
Which
but now
is,
it's
I
25.
think a
Okay.
So
more
on
than fair
defense,
number.
there's 40 company members or up to 50, depending on what you want. And then on attack, it's 25.
This is where I super disagree.
one-
So we'll stop right here. Have been the way from day one, but I think it shows that AGS is ultimately listening to us. AGS has gotten really good at listening to us, I believe. So here's my shtick. Here's my bone to pick. Okay. So on attack, maybe should I let him express why they say it and then talk about it because he expresses it. Let's finish.
One more?
And one more. There will be a daily war limit.
Oh yeah, that too.
So everyone can participate in
I don't like
one
this
attacking
change.
war and one defensive war a day. That resets every day at 5 a.m. So, if you have any 6 a.m. Meetings for wars, you'll be good.
And I heard this is per account, right, Dan, to
Mhm.
sort of help some of the people that might have multiple characters?
Correct. Yeah, and
I don't like this at all.
it's meant to. I mean, it's across the board. Everybody has this limit now. So it's the intent is for there to be more available war slots for everybody.
I understand that.
It's awesome.
And to be clear too, it's not a count, it's a count per world. So if you have characters across multiple worlds, you're good to go. You can have wars in all of them if you want to, but if you have 2 characters on one world, that limit applies to both of them combined.
True.
Awesome.
And if we can't wait to see what happens after December. This is not nice. This is not the end of what we do, right?
I hope not.
'Cause we're pretty sure there are other things that we might need to address.
Yeah. And I think keeping in mind our high level goal here is important, right? Our goal was to allow more people to participate in war and not to have like a small group of people be able to control multiple territories. So
Right.
that's a goal we're going to keep pushing. Hopefully these make meaningful changes. If not, we'll make some more.
Keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about something else. Craft.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. So let's first address war roster limits. So right now there is no war roster limit when it comes to a company. So if you own a territory, you can literally fill your war roster with 49 non-company members. I'm pretty sure or maybe even 50. I wonder if you can do it. No, because someone has to be in charge. You have to have one company member who's in charge of the army, I believe, the roster. And that's it. You can literally fill it with 49 of any other companies, even other factions, and not the opposite, the faction that's not in the war, that's on either side. And I agree that it should be changed. I like the idea that if your company controls a territory, it should be your responsibility to defend it. You're the ones making the decisions with the way it runs, what buffs are running, etc. You should be responsible. And so it always made sense to me, specifically on defense, that the company that controls a territory needs to take responsibility for defending it, keeping it, and running it well. So when they make that 40 people, that's a significant chunk of that war roster. I think that is a significant amount. I'm more in favor of half, 25 or 30. I think recruiting people is a good way to have camaraderie amongst companies in a faction. There's obviously still 10 slots left, but there should also be a faction effort, a band of companies that come together. Some people love to be mercenaries. Something I've thought about doing in the past is becoming a mercenary. Instead of being part of a company that owns, full war rosters, I want to be someone who is like a gun for hire. I think that would be kind of fun. I think that's something that can be done in this game that's kind of cool. That I know some people have done on smaller servers. Everyone knows who they are. People like them on their war roster, etc. You could turn it into a profession if you want to. What I don't like with the limits is what they've done to attacks. And I'll hand it over to you first, and then I'll give my take because I've spoken a lot right now. How do you feel about this specific change when it comes to war rosters? Another way also to combat, it's honestly another way to combat shell companies because the company can't fill the entire roster, or an empty company can't recruit their entire roster, as well as the limits, which I also disagree with. We'll cover that after. What do you think about these changes? By the way, just to note, the attacking side, guys, only needs 25 members from their company when attacking. When you go to war as an attacker, you only have to fill half of your war roster instead of 80% with your own company. Fairuza, how do you feel about all of these things?
I completely agree with the changes they've made. I've always been on the side of, hey, you own a town, your company should defend that town.
Absolutely.
But I do like that they've left some wiggle room in the attacking roster, so you can invite like if you're in an quote unquote alliance with another company, you can have
exactly.
those people help fill your roster to take a territory.
Like I said,
Because
faction camaraderie, right?
right. And as everybody knows, defense is a lot easier than attacking.
Yes.
So
still,
that gives those 25 spots to bring in some, heavy hitter PvP, folks
Mhm.
that can help you take it. Like you said, guns for hire or whatnot.
Yeah, see, a
But
lot of
then,
these big companies don't necessarily have, 100 people or 120 people that want to participate in war. You know what I mean? Like they want to do all sorts of stuff. So they might even need to recruit other people in the faction.
right. So defense, I mean, most territory owning companies have a roster that they could fill 40 people, even if they're not the best PvPers,
Yep.
because defense is easier, they still should be able to defend that territory.
Mhm. I agree.
So that's my take on it. I think that those numbers are pretty fair
Mhm.
when it comes down to the nitty gritty. Um, I would like to see more on the attacking side, like more of your company members have to attack, but that 25-25, I think is a
Mhm.
pretty fair number. And I love the fact that there's a world per world cooldown on a war. So, like you said, you can't have, you know, well, I'll just be a mercenary for my second company.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I like that there's a cooldown there.
Yeah. Um, I disagree with it halfway. I don't mind if there is a restriction for how many wars someone can participate. So there are the idea behind it is good. We want more people to be able to participate in wars, not just have a juggernaut squad of 50 that can demolish the entire, dominate the entire server because they've got the best 50 and they get to participate in every war, right? So now we're like, well, now we need to train more people. Now we need to include more people, and so they get better. Because we want every war roster we have to be effective, because we can't bring the same exact 50 every time. So I appreciate that concept quite a bit. What I don't like is there's some people who just really love to do wars. Like I said, someone who's a mercenary, they can only participate in 2 wars. And I know people who used to do 3-4 wars a night because it was a smaller server and everyone knew them. And there would be different sides of war, like trying to bid for him. Like they'd be like, you know what I mean? Like he was a hot commodity. And he got to play the gameplay he liked the most. So, like, to me, I think of him, it's not going to impact me. I don't mind. Doing 1 war a night's tough for me. I haven't been on a war in months. But for someone like him, my friend, who I know loves to do wars and has made a name for himself because of it, he now only gets to do 2 of those a night. That's only an hour's worth of gameplay of his favorite gameplay. You know what I mean? That's only an hour. They're only a half hour. He only gets to do 2. And he has to specifically choose sides now because he can only do 1 defense and 1 attack. I just think that's a bit of a short-sighted decision. Maybe restrict it 2 on each side. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that's quite a few wars, or
Well,
maybe...
I was going to say they're trying to make it so more people have spots. And
Right.
if you get people that, oh, well, I want these guys in my war because they're good, all of a sudden those 25 spots are taken and it's just like it is before.
I mean, you say that, but there's several wars a night. Like,
Mm.
you get to the weekend, and there's like 5 wars in a day. Like... that's gonna strain, like, how thin you then have to go to make your war rosters. I mean, obviously you might have to start combining some of your better players and less better players. They'll get better from participating in war more often, instead of making like 1 full war roster and then you lose them the rest of the day on its defense. You kind of like, we need like 3-4 really good groups. So, 2-3 decent groups, and then like we need a group of 2 of people who've never been in war before so they can learn, right? Instead of
Right.
doing, we need our 50 best people to defend and attack, and oh crap, we're gonna lose Morningdale because we don't have our best war roster in the entire faction anymore. I get it. I don't like limiting, just like a lot of people hated how they limited how many mutated dungeons you can do. I hate limiting gameplay to the people who prefer a specific gameplay. If I was only allowed to do so many arenas in a night, I would be like, well, I'm going to max out and not get to play how I want to play anymore. That sucks. You know what I mean?
Totally get the fact of the player limiting aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but as it stands right now with the shell companies,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally the same 100 people
Totally.
that are in the wars all the time.
Yes.
And that's not right either.
Yes, no, and I think these things will work in tandem, which you talked about. I really think both things will eliminate the issue. That's why if they eliminate shell companies, I think they don't need to restrict it to one attack and one defense every freaking time, because they get rid of they completely eliminate shell companies, in my opinion, with these two decisions of roster limits and you can't participate in war or influence the moment you leave a company, right? So if you want to participate in a war, you have to be in the company. So like major companies, even if they can participate in say 2 attacks and 2 defenses, they're not really going to be able to participate in all the wars because, like, say there's 2 different yellow companies and they both have a defensive war that day. Company A will use 40 people in their company to defend their territory, right? If they had a second go, it wouldn't matter because the other company needs to use 40 slots. So only 10 people from the company A would even be able to slot in. So they have
No, I completely get it.
You know what I mean? Like we're already diversifying because I have to use as many different companies. There's 5 different companies or 5 different territories owned by there's 4 different Covenant territories right now in Marama. That's automatically 40 different rosters, like 40 each out of those 5 rosters, 40 individuals would be completely different. Whether there's limits to how many wars you can participate or not, because they have to. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's already doing that. It's not like, all 5 of those companies can share the same 30 or 40 people from one great company. They now need to raise their own great war roster. They can't use the same group of 40, 50 people in every war anymore, no matter what company controls the territory. So, you see what I'm screaming? Like, those decisions are already sort of limiting how many wars someone will participate in, because if you're not in the defending company, you only get 1 of 10 spots. Like, you better be dang good or no one's going to bring you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that would really combat this situation without limiting how many wars someone can participate in. That's my take. And so now those people who would have been able to maybe be in 2 or 3 of those wars in those small 10 slots, they can't now. They just can't. They can't be in their company's war and then maybe their allies' company war and defend two territories. Not even 2. What if they wanted to do 2 wars that night, but they were only defenses? I mean, what if they didn't have an attack war that night, but their company had to defend a territory and their ally company had to defend a territory? They can't go help. They have to pick somebody else. You see what I'm screaming here? I don't like these types of limitations that Amazon puts on their community. I think it's just wrong. Whether that comes
I
from...
would say that once this stuff hits live and like they actually see how the player base, reacts to things and
I fear we'll
you know,
see. We might see
everything
people
on
leave. We might see a lot of
eh,
big war companies leave. People who focus on being good at war.
I don't know about that. I do think that, once they, kind of analyze the changes they've made, seeing how it works in a real world scenario,
Mm-hmm.
how then say, okay, the limitations are too much. We're going to back off the limitations. You see what I'm saying?
He did
I
just
mean,
say
this is
these
all
things are up for change. He did say it's possible
right.
to change, but I don't know. I guess I'm just pessimistic about them changing that. I don't see them doing it. Maybe they will. Maybe there's enough complaints. I got to give them the credit. They've listened a lot. So maybe if they get enough negative feedback on the forums, they might reconsider, maybe make it 2. I mean, they still have the expedition limits, and people cried like crazy when they added those. Maybe they're not crying as much anymore. Who knows? I remember the outcry. I've heard it from so many people that they hated.
Oh yeah, that was
Everyone
rough.
Everyone I knew that was into mutated expeditions was like angry for like 2 weeks. I mean, maybe now they're just spreading out. They're diversifying their game time. I'm just happy with gatherings. Cloakhead's like, I'm just picking my flowers and cutting my trees, bro. Start formal active training programs to bring others up to a competitive war level. And that's true. Like I said, for now, factions are going to kind of have to widen how, they're going to have to help other companies get better at war if they want more factions more companies in their faction to control, right? You can't have just one great super company that has 150 people kind of do all the wars for the faction. Now, if you want 5 territories, 5 different companies are going to have to be good at war. That's not easy. So I get that, and I'm happy about that. But it's still true if they restrict the war rosters to 40 members. I don't think they need to restrict how many wars you can be in. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
My other
I mean, I
big...
get it.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying, but you're saying you disagree. You like that they're putting the war participation limits.
at the start, I do. I want to see how it plays out in, in the real world instead of just on paper,
Mhm.
and then it can be adjusted. And I think that's where they're at as well. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for the devs. I'm not a dev,
Mhm.
but at least the way that they've been communicating recently and the decisions they've been making, it
Mhm.
seems like they do listen.
Mm.
So,
I agree. I agree with that take. So the last part that really bothers me now, and I think you kind of agree with the idea behind this, is the amount of company members an attacking war roster needs is only half. So if you're a purple company and you declared war against a yellow company and they need to use 40 members in their company, you only need to use 25. The reason I have a problem with that is if you can't fill the roster so far with so many people on attack, you probably shouldn't be taking a territory. I feel like if you can't provide the same type of war roster on attack as you can on defense, I don't think you should have the opportunity for a couple reasons. And it's like, well, that sounds like gatekeeping. No, let me explain. Every time a territory either loses an invasion, which already had company limits in it, and I don't know why they weren't in wars, or loses in a war and there's a new ownership. So say a yellow territory loses in defending their territory and a purple war moves in, the town gets downgraded there too. And if a company comes in and they can't fill 40 people and they can only fill 25 and they have to recruit so many, people, 25 outsiders, but still the same faction, and they go take the territory and they don't even have 40 people to fill the roster on defense, and they lose the territory a day later, the town downgrades again. So, now we're talking about consecutive downgrades, which is impacting people who have houses, people who like to craft in that town. That could be a problem, actually.
now I will say that I think, and I'm not 100% positive, but I think the only downgrades that happen due to a war are fort downgrades. I don't think the actual town stations degrade over a lost war. I think it's just like
Really?
your fort, your emplacements, and your gates and things like that. I'm pretty sure. Now, don't quote me on that, but I'm 90%
Clip it,
sure
guys.
that that's what happens.
Clipper saying it. He's been quoted. If that's true, okay. So somebody else in the chat is agreeing. Tables go down on invasion. Fortifications go down on wars. Why did I think it was both? I don't know. I wonder why I had that understanding. Maybe I'm just crazy.
When it first came out during
Launch.
the hypothetical alpha that we were in, I think that was the case.
The hypothetical one. The one you're not supposed to talk about, you mean?
Yeah,
The one that I was never in?
exactly.
Gosh, I'm jealous. I didn't know you've been around this game that long until you
Oh,
told
yeah.
me. Alpha 1. Yes, Alpha 1. If you're crazy, you're in great company, Jafar. Thanks. I'm glad. I'm glad I'm in good company. Maybe that's not a problem then. So maybe I still think if you don't have the company to fill a war roster the same way on either attack and defense, you shouldn't be able to be in the war. That's just me. Maybe I'm being petty. I don't know if that's the right use of that word. Ask Fair. She'll tell you. I was Alpha 2 as well, Skull Kid. I was Alpha 2. So now they're going to talk about some other
With
stuff.
that,
Hmm?
100%. I agree with your sentiment
Yeah.
where, you know, like deep down, I'm like, if you can't field your roster to take that territory,
Don't take it. You can't. You
yeah.
shouldn't be able to.
But I also see where they're coming from, where they want to have those 25 spots
Mm-hmm.
for, like I said, like an ally and that kind of thing.
Then make it.
So
I'd rather do it the same on each side. Either make them both 30, both 40, or both 25. That's how I feel. I think both sides of a war should be filled with the same amount of company members. Okay? That number, I don't really know where I land on it. Like I said, 40, 30, or 25. I just think it should be even. Yep. And I know they want to open the opportunity to more companies being able to control territories, but I feel like those companies will be sorely disappointed when they lose their territory so soon after winning it because they can't field the full roster. You know what I mean? That's just, it doesn't sound like a recipe for actually helping more companies get included. I feel like that's a recipe for for causing smaller companies to actually be disappointed because they can't actually, like, they just win this cool thing and then they lose it a day or two later. And
like I said earlier, I don't know if that's necessarily the case
no, not
because
just
most companies will have 40 people and defenses are a lot easier.
true,
So
but if you can't, say you literally don't have 40 people, does that mean you have empty slots? Are you going to war with 40 people because you could only fill 30 and then 10 extra?
yep,
You know
that's probably exactly what it means.
That'd be huge. 10 people different in war is nuts. That's so massive. That's a massive disadvantage. It's a massive disadvantage to be like 2 or 3 people short in war. Even when it's 50 on 50, depending on the people. Like if it's healers, it's a big deal. War rosters are specific.
They're crazy specific.
Yeah, so you're missing more than 3 people and you're behind the 8 ball already. You're missing 10 people, 5 people. Ugh. All right, let's carry on to what he's talking about next. These things I also disagree with because I feel like it dumbs down their game. That's why I don't like it.
So
you're talking
you've
about
been on the
crafting.
Fresh Start Worlds. Like a lot of times I'll see in chat.
I
Where's
might
our
be wrong
tier
about this
5,
too. I've been wrong about a lot of stuff tonight, so it's possible I'm wrong about this too.
It can be sometimes frustrating when like the
I don't know if
PvP
it's
parts of the
necessarily
world
wrong.
affect
It's just
my ability to do
difference of
crafting.
opinions.
Any thoughts on how we might be
You
able
think
to
so,
rectify
Hipley?
this?
I wonder if that's
so
true.
in December, we're making crafting tier changes. Again, they're on the PTR beforehand, so you'll be able to see them. But we are basically ungating a lot of recipes behind the tiers. So any procedural recipes, so recipes
like,
that
what's the
you
point?
can have multiple choice inputs for your ingredients.
See, any recipes that you can choose multiple choice ingredients. That's what
So do you think that means tier 5 like weapons?
that's why I told you. You make an ironwood bow, but you need some ironwood, but you can choose different. Exactly, Hipley. That is what it sounds like. And that's what everyone rolls for top tier. That is what we use the tier 5 tables for. So that's what I'm saying. Listen to how she talks about this. This does not sound good to me.
Behind the tiers. So any procedural recipes, so recipes that you can have multiple choice inputs for your ingredients. So a lot of those recipes are now going to be completely
I need to write
unlocked.
a note
it doesn't
so I
matter
can
what
ask
tier
on the forums
station
about
is at,
this.
you'll be able to
Go
do
check
a
it out
tier
on the
5
PTR.
procedural recipe.
Go see if you can.
A lot of named items are remaining locked. We still want tier 5 stations to be something to strive for and really aim
That's
for.
not a reason.
But so a lot of the named items and other big ones are still locked, and things like the Arcana repository, it's a long word, it'll have things like, the mana and the health potions are unlocked, but all of our specialty ones will remain locked underneath.
So I can
the
make tier
tiers.
5 health potions.
You can make tier 5
Anywhere.
health potions anywhere you want.
Another nice reason
sure
to
how I
upgrade,
feel
because
about
one of the
that.
dangers here is that people might not upgrade.
That
now
really doesn't
everything's
bother me
unlocked.
so
But
much.
one of the nice changes is with the
But
income changes
if you
we
can
made in the
make,
past.
your tier 5 weapons with the legendary materials and stuff
Yeah.
at a tier 1 station, I'm not real down with that. Well,
It's a
like I said,
terrible
I want to
idea.
clarify. I got to clarify that.
Find out for me, because that's and Hipley's saying, yeah, exactly, because that's what it sounds like. Maybe they're expressing it. Maybe she's expressing it inaccurately, or we're just misunderstanding her. I hope that's the case, because he's about to answer now. Well, what about companies that no longer want to upgrade? Will no longer want to upgrade their tables because it almost seems unnecessary. So he'll address that too.
Changes is with the income change.
You can make tier 5 health potions.
You can make tier
Anywhere.
5 health potions anywhere you want.
Another nice reason to upgrade, because one of the dangers here is that people might not upgrade now that everything's unlocked. But one of the nice changes is with the income changes we made in the past, the income that towns make is dependent on the total territory level.
Yeah.
Sorry, the town level. So they still have good reasons to upgrade there.
That shouldn't
and
be
there's
the
other
reason.
side benefits, like you said, the named. Are there any other benefits to upgrading a
Yeah,
station?
there's also going to be Azoth discounts. So if you like using
This is
your
cool.
up your Azoth
I think this
to
is
get
smart.
a chance at extra perks and everything, as the stations upgrade, you'll have a discount on your Azoth.
Awesome. Well, sometimes when we make changes, there are unintended consequences.
Now they're going to cover town boards. So him saying that, I think I'm right. Gosh, I hope I'm not. Because, like, this is dumbing down their game. It really is. The more and more they move in this type of direction, they're removing reward, they're removing risk, they are removing penalty, which I think is important, actually, because there needs to be hardship. If it's all easy, you're not actually achieving anything. If there's no real chance for failure or loss or etc., why try? It's not an achievement, actually.
Like the what is that from The Incredibles? If everybody's special, no one's special.
Yes, if everyone's super, no one's super.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. If everyone can do anything anywhere, where's the actual achievement and punishment? Like, why do we care then if we win an invasion? Like, losing an invasion is harmful to a territory, a territory's ability to produce, top tier tables. Like, if your town loses an invasion, usually it's like 3 or 4 tables that get downgraded. You don't upgrade those overnight. That takes some time and effort now to replenish that. But now, if it doesn't ultimately matter what level they are, who cares? Well, we'll just do as well as we can. We're not going to try to defend our territory from invasions now. Also, she says things like named items and stuff. No one crafts named weapons. Please tell me, I don't know, tell me a single named weapon that is a hot commodity and is crafted frequently. Tell me one, somebody in the chat, if you have it. A weapon of any kind that is crafted that is near bis or bis, meaning desirable. A desirable weapon. Anyone? I'm waiting. I'll play some music. You can, if it's, maybe you have 7 answers and I'm just completely clueless and it'll take you a while to type it out. No, you don't. I don't need to wait. I didn't think so. No one crafts anything named. Like, at all. Which, is, by the way, is just a massive shortcoming by Amazon, in my opinion. I feel like there's plenty of named items in dungeons that are valuable. There's a lot of named items. Weapons, gear, jewelry, inside mutated dungeons that people go after. People still go after the Lazarus bow. It's still a really good bow. Okay? It may not be the best in slot, but, like, if you don't want to roll best in slot bows, and you just want to go get the really good bow, you can. It obviously might be difficult and take time. But exactly, other than the low 500s, and people fly through that gear in a heartbeat. When it came out, that was super good at first. Okay, so Ikra says at one point there was an obscure Void Gauntlet that had some relevance.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember that.
So if what it sounds like is true, they're actually giving the ability to craft the most desired gear at any level, at any tier table. When I was helping a couple days ago, Eagle Garrett was trying to roll a Bis bow. He got a decent one, but he didn't get a Bis one. He rolled it twice, actually. He rolled a legendary bow with Vorpal twice, and the 2 other traits they were using scarabs for. He had 7 golden scarabs, right? And that's exciting. People love rolling. There's some people who do it for, they love their rolling. They must be gamblers because they love it. And it's fun, don't get me wrong. I rolled him some really good gloves and surprised him. That is what people do at high-level crafting. They craft that stuff. They don't craft anything that's named. All of my gear, except for my helm and my chest piece, which I got through the PvP track, all of it is a plain crafted piece of item that's called, like, ironwood bow or, runic leather chest piece, right? Like, that's, of course, I don't have a chest piece, but, like, what's the Phoenix weave boots? You know what I mean? Like, That's what they are. They're just random generated items based on what they input, and then they might try to influence those RNG numbers by using things like what are those called? Timeless shards and scarabs. It would be ridiculous that became available in any tier. Ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. This seems awful to me.
The only thing that I can see that it might impact is if the station is not fully upgraded, you might not be able to get the highest gear score.
I mean, so you're okay. So maybe now they reduce. That could be a thing. Tiers actually create a more effective crafting station, not just ability to craft better things or higher level things, but like maybe the chances for perk rolls maybe drop, right? Maybe the chance of it getting gems. Maybe it's item level or its gear score. Your gear score range is dependent on the tier of a table. I don't hear
Right,
any of
that's
that
what I'm-
language.
No, but again, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea. I mean, yeah, you might be able to make a tier 5 bow, but it only is like 525 gear score.
Or 580
At a low,
to
yeah.
570. Like basically like the slider moves down or up depending on the tier. And maybe the chance of perk rolls at all, like it's got a very high chance of a perk, maybe those percentages drop or increase depending on. I could exactly. Yeah. I could see that if they implemented that would be because you got to give them a reason. You got to give a reason to want top tier tables. And
Yes.
and these aren't. I'm sorry. The reasons they're giving us, no one cares about. No one cares. They care about rolling their gear and having the highest chance to do it. And to do that, if they did those things, and maybe this is what we need to hit up the forums. Maybe we have a force of people go hit up the forums and say, hey, this change is very awful. It's dumbing down your game. The ranks, the tiers of your tables need to be way more impactful than what you're going to make them. And if that's an answer, why don't you maybe increase or decrease the effectiveness of the table? I think that's a relatively decent solution. I would be okay with that. Would I be happy? Not really. I think a combination of the two might be a good idea, actually. But that's my take. I'm gonna move on. Yes? Anything else?
No, I actually posted a question on the forums about it. So
Guys, go to the forums. What's the name of your post, Fairuza? You know what?
video
I'm gonna put a link.
What?
I'm gonna permit you in chat. Say something in
Okay.
chat so I can at you. I mean, I know it's Fairuza Games. It'd be easy to at you if you just say something. There she is. Boom, guys. Go ahead and you were too slow or too fast. You were too fast. Try again. Go to this link she's about to post, guys. Let's make ourselves heard. I think this is a terrible change. I'm not even a crafter, but
I did. It's not a suggestion. I mean, it's literally a question. I literally just asked for clarification.
Or that you can repost that link, can't you? I gave you permission.
Well, I thought I did.
It deleted it. I'll do it.
Message not sent.
I'll do it. Okay. I'll just copy pasta.
But yeah, I mean, someone can jump on there and throw those suggestions on. I mean, I don't care.
I just discovered something really cool. All right, now they're going to talk about town boards. I think this is still dumbing down their game, but I've heard from a couple people today now, and I think that this is something people want, so I'll just let it go.
When we make
This might have been mine.
Dave does his best to cover for us. We appreciate that.
So I did not like the experience that people are having a lot at the start, where you were able to power level through the game by doing town projects. You were,
Guilty
I think
especially
a lot
if you're in a
of
company or
You
somewhere
did
get
this?
a lot of money.
I did
not
them
investing
when I
in the
could.
game. You were able to use that coin to quickly level up, and it just sort of circumvented all the gameplay we put, and it didn't feel like a good loophole.
Well,
So
I'm sorry. Back then, the
we
questing was awful.
slashed the.
I'm sorry?
The questing was awful back then.
I mean, it was just a much better way to level. I actually didn't mind the questing. I leveled questing, funny enough. I did.
XP,
It's way better
town
now,
projects.
but I still did it then.
Did that have any consequences?
Did
we
that
weren't
have any
anticipating?
impact?
They did have some consequences.
We'll back up a little
It
bit.
sort of circumvented all the gameplay we put, and it didn't feel like a good loophole. So We slashed the XP from town.
Slashed
Yeah.
is
Did that
does
have
not do
any
justice to what
consequences
they
that we
actually
weren't
did.
anticipating?
They did have some consequences.
Let me just say that changed. So I'm level 52 on a fresh start server right now. I've not done a single town project.
That's kind of wild.
and it's going fast. It's great. But yeah, there was a side.
No, I think
I didn't know this until I think you brought it up, Fairuza, because I'm not playing on a fresh start server. Some fresh start servers, people aren't doing town projects at all. Like, people are leveling, people are level 60, and they're doing everything but town projects. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm hearing this from the perspective of people have been doing town projects repeatedly for basically a year straight because this is part of their routine. Whereas on these fresh start servers, you got all these players who don't have it part of their routine, and then they're looking at town boards and like, well, that's not worth my time. I'm like,
Exactly.
so when Fairuza told me that pre-show, I was like, oh, that's a good point. I'm not looking at it like that. So I agree now.
we're happy with the impact of that, but there might have been a
But
side.
slashing
side
is
effect.
not
We
what they
did
did.
see,
They destroyed
a lot
it.
of territories not upgrading because people
Really?
weren't naturally motivated to go do those town projects anymore.
Mhm.
So we are drastically reducing the amount of contribution required to actually complete those town projects. And so it'll be like, I think we're cutting it by like about 70, 80%.
Wow.
Like it's a
Which is
pretty
nuts.
solid chunk
I think half
of
would be
contribution that will no
plenty.
longer be required
70 to
come the
80?
December update.
My
So
goodness.
hopefully that will help
Well,
people
For
really
like the top
complete
tier, especially
their
the
territory
tier 5
projects.
stuff,
And obviously,
isn't it like 15,000 or 25,000?
Salmon.
I mean, it's pretty high.
I don't think they mean the amount of resources you need per task. I took
No.
it as how many tasks they do. You have to
Right.
do.
How much the task XP, like, if it's, 25,000 XP you have to upgrade. I think they're cutting that significantly, which is a great move.
So just
especially
simply
since
how
we're not
much
getting done.
XP. That's why basically how many different tasks you need to turn in.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot. That sounds like it's almost irrelevant.
we'll continue to look at them. Be solid chunk of contribution that will no longer be required come the December update. So hopefully that will help people really complete
It certainly feels
their
that way,
territory
Hipley.
projects. And obviously we'll continue to look at them and see what else we can do with
Yeah,
our
so
town
those company
projects.
members that like it's now within striking distance for a company to be able to upgrade all their own stations so that they can
Yes.
get that
Which
money.
is fine.
Yep.
I understand
There
that
is
take.
still a time limit, though, right before a project completes, so you can't
Yes.
sort of do them all in one day.
Right.
No.
No. Yeah. So yeah, once that time limit will still be there. But yeah, like you said, when a company could do it as a fun company activity.
Won't be easy.
Totally
Okay.
fun company activity.
Well, I love the changes in the territory game. This is, a big part of our game, so we're going to keep working on it, keep improving it. Thanks.
music. Randomly.
All right, well, here it is. We're talking about the roadmap. I almost feel like we need a
Roadmap.
drum roll. But I do want to talk a little bit before we get to the roadmap. Specifics. A roadmap is just that. It's not a hard commitment on everything. Like, things change in development. We could run into problems.
Although, if you go and look back at the last year's roadmap, or this year's roadmap, sorry, they stuck to it pretty darn well. I'll be honest. I looked at it. They've showed us, every once in a while. They stuck pretty darn well to this past roadmap. So, I trust them.
might
Yeah, I
come in a
think the
little
only
later.
thing that they really
I've
didn't
even once or
claim.
twice heard of things
fulfill
coming
on
in early in game
was
development,
the
but it's very
leaderboards.
random and rare.
What?
The leaderboards, I think they,
Are
you
they
know,
on the
kind of-
roadmap?
I thought they were.
I looked. We were just looking earlier. I Googled it.
Hang on. Roadmap.
I don't think it was.
Well, I know it was in a dev video.
Oh yeah, definitely. They talked about it at some point.
Content
I
roadmap.
can't zoom in.
Yes, it says autumn leaderboards.
Oh yeah, there it is. Huh.
So that's the only thing that they kind of.
Look at that. She's right, guys. Man, she's sharp as a tack, guys. She's a potato. What is your nickname?
Tater Queen.
Tater Queen she's quite sharp. Okay, I'm not so sharp. My apologies.
a little
Well,
later.
no, but I
I've
mean,
even
you know,
watched
one thing out of the
roadmap.
entire roadmap, I don't think is
I
a
mean,
bad
that's yeah,
odds.
no, it doesn't make my statement untrue. They got just about everything. I just didn't realize leaderboards was actually on it.
almost feel like we need a drum roll. But I do want to talk a little bit before we get.
No, they have Expedition Group Finder. It just Expedition Group Finder. I remember they were announcing it and they talked about it and they said they pushed it back a release because they were like, we're just not happy with the current iteration and we want to make it better. Is basically what they said. They still delivered pretty darn close to their goals, but that was a specific. We're not happy with this implementation. We want it to be better, which is they still delivered on it. It was just, yeah, exactly. It was. I've heard things. I've never even used it. I've never used the group finder in New World, but I've heard some things, and it needed extra time. So I still consider that a delivery because they were like, we're still giving you this soon. It just needs to be better.
To the roadmap specifics. A roadmap is just that. It's not a hard commitment on everything. Like things change in development. We could run into problems. Things might come in a little later. I've even once or twice heard of things coming in early in game development, but it's very random and rare.
I don't know why I
and your
mentioned
feedback
that.
may change some of our thinking as we get going. But right now, this is what it looks like for us. So let's start with spring. First deliverable we can talk about in spring is the Empyrean Forge Expedition.
Yeah, I've heard no complaints since they
So the
changed
Empyrean
it.
Forge Expedition
Last
is a first part of a two-part story.
This is
right?
kinda
So
neat.
This is
It's kinda
a
neat.
storytelling piece. We're going to start with the Varangians, and there's a lot of fire elements. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. Every time we do a new expedition, it kind of changes like some of the end game, and it gets really fun.
Well, and I think this will be the first time you fight
uses this wrong.
humanoids as sort of like the main enemy type, right?
So first of all, that's an incorrect statement. Basically all the faction NPC factions in New World are humanoids. The Varangians are humans, right? So a humanoid is basically a creature in like video games and stuff that are human-like, right? So anything that's, if you think of like World of Warcraft, all of the races in that game are humanoids because they're kind of built, designed, and proportional to a human type creature or animal like us. So like you think of like a what's it called? An elf.
Torso body.
Exactly, an elf or an orc. It's all shoulders upright for the most part, head, shoulders, knees and toes, arms, legs, etc., right? Ears, mouth, whatever. They're all just different. So you look at a Lost, it's it's technically a dead human that's not a zombie, but humanoid. You look at most what are they called? Angry Earth, they're human-like, but they're just full of wood, right? Like that's what a humanoid is. So his statement isn't correct. I'm kind of disappointed in David for misusing the word humanoid. What he means is, and he clarifies afterwards, this is the first time, and this is kind of cool, that your enemies are humans. Now, we fight the Varangians out in the real world, but it's the first time it's an expedition, which means someone, I was watching Kat Conti earlier, and she's like, what's going to be their weakness? And that's a good question. Everything kind of has weaknesses and strengths or resistances. And I'm like, maybe bleeds? Like maybe just straight up bleeds or thrust damage. I don't know. It'll probably be something to do with physical, in my opinion, because we bleed.
Right,
I
so
just
that might
hope that
come
they
with some
don't
new
add
itemization.
like perk items or
More perk
coatings
items.
or coatings or whatever, because that would completely screw up PvP.
No. Oh. I mean, they could easily determine a player versus an NPC as human. That's something that'd be very easily, like they already have PvP only items. Resilience only works in PvP. What's it called? For striking fortification only works in PvP. So they could make PvE only. Just yeah.
PvE only coatings and
Yeah. No, that's not crazy.
ward and all that stuff.
Yeah. Exactly, Hipley. Maybe the ones we have, burns, bleeds. Exactly. Kind of what would be common sense to a human, I think that would be, and they wouldn't really have to change much at that point, right? Like they'd just be like, all right, so fire damage hurts, cuts and bleeds, and being poked,
Getting knocked
and
down by a hammer.
stabbed, exactly, blunt damage.
It kind of changes like some
engines, and there's a lot of fire elements. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. Every time we do a new expedition, it kind of changes like some of the end game, and it gets really fun.
Well,
if that's possible too,
this will be
Zachi.
the
Maybe they
first
won't
time
have
you
one.
Fight
Interesting.
humanoids is sort of like the main enemy type, right? So that might come with some new itemization potentially.
But they say
good stuff
that,
there.
so I doubt it.
Yeah, it's all about the rewards. All right, well, the next one, I think a few people have mentioned this next one, that they've wanted it. So another spring item is gear set storage.
This is big.
Oh my god.
Dude.
Sorry, I'm
Another moment of Verifielli losing his mind in this video. Man throws his hat. This is
Entirely
huge.
too happy.
This is a big deal to a lot of people.
really excited about this. So I am a crafter.
The
and
kid
I also
just came
run
out of him.
mutations, right?
Like
So I
hardcore
have
just came out
all
of
my
him.
different crafting sets, and I have different sets for each mutation every time. So now I'll be able to quickly swap in and out of these things. It's super exciting.
See, I play the trading post game and I run mutations. So I need all of the luck gear that I can possibly get on so that I get as much as I can, but I also need to switch into tank or DPS depending on what they need. So this is going to be super exciting.
This is a big deal in a
very
game like
stoked on
this.
this one.
And what's
Yeah,
his
us
name?
being a game without class.
He says it right here. This is
it's
huge.
going to be a game changer, being able to just
This is huge. This
quickly
is one of the
get between
biggest
those
changes to the
classes
game, in my
and play
opinion.
the game different, or like you
I
said,
have
into
a
crafting
confession.
or other stuff.
Uh-oh.
I have one set of gear that I run
Players
for
have asked-
everything.
Me too.
For it, and they're totally right. The game.
Well,
One trick
no,
pony.
I lied. I have two.
Super
I have
excited.
a light set for
Um,
PvE and medium set for arenas.
I have one set of armor that I use, and then I have a stone cutting set and a tree cutting set. So I do have other sets for other things, but when it comes to combat, I have one. I interchange jewelry sometimes. I have two, like a ring or an earring. I have two of. That's it.
Well, since it's spring, we have another event where
So let's cover this really quick, and I want to take Scott's statement a little step further. He talks about what classless game. It's a game changer. In a classless game, I feel like it was inexcusable not to have on launch. This is something I love Amazon. I really love the way they've treated this game in particular. It's taken them a while to come around, but they've listened to the community. They communicate with these videos all the time, etc. This game, with the style of Jack of all trades, or you've got armor sets for gathering and crafting. So it's a lot like I've heard it compared to RuneScape, probably more than many other games, because of how you can be a master of all. You can literally learn every weapon. You can learn every gathering skill. You can learn every crafting skill. You can learn every refining skill. You can literally be 100% in everything if you want that. In a game where you may have so many different proficiencies, maybe you like to play 4 or 5 different weapons. You need some, and you are a master crafter in 3 crafts, and you have all your refining at max. Like, this is a game where people are bound to have multiple sets of gear necessary, not just to have them. Like, it's a necessity that they have them. And I know Zachi in chat right now. He's my company's biggest crafter. At least I think he is. He's one of our consuls. He has gear sets for all of his crafting. I can't imagine how annoying that is. This is something that one of the biggest misses, in my opinion, on launch is that this wasn't included in this particular game, because it would have added a very important piece to one of the biggest things that makes your game more unique when it comes to MMOs, and that's classlessness and all choices. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want it. And I can change. I'm a chameleon. I can change in any situation. And if I have the things to get that. And some people do. I can't imagine how many people, when it comes to mutations, I know people have a set for each mutation. Because each mutation, different expeditions have different enemy types. So, like, you have to have a fire damage one. You have to have your what's it called? Your wards. You got to have your ward sets for, what are they called? Like, the different races. You got to have your Angry Earth ward, your Corrupted ward, and then when it comes to coatings and etc. Like, exactly. Zachi's got 15 sets of armor. I don't do mutated. Mutated, you need 3 or 4 sets of armor just to do each different mutation. Mutated expedition. And then you need every crafting that you're proficient in. And if you have multiple weapons, If you have multiple weapons you like to play, if you like to be healer or a DPS, you now need a 3 or 4 different sets times 2 for all of those expeditions if you want to play them. That's nuts.
That's insane.
It's nutty. And that's fine. That's really cool. That is a really cool thing about New World. I love that about New World. Even though I've literally chosen to pigeonhole myself extremely hard, I still think it's extremely awesome and attractive to a lot of people who don't have that in other MMOs like World of Warcraft. In World of Warcraft, I've only played a shaman ever. And I'm a one-trick kind of guy. I pick something and I get good at it. I never played another class. And I couldn't if I wanted to, because I would have had to level another character, and I never pulled that off. In this, you just have to put in the effort to get the things to put on your character. That's why they don't have alts in this game. You don't need them. This is a big win. I'm glad they're finally doing it, but I'm super disappointed that Amazon released this game without it. Man, was that a shortcoming. And I can't tell you how many people that quit the game I know, that was a big deal to them. And they were all crafters. They were all crafters like, bro, I have to carry around 200 weight in freaking clothes, and it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And that sounds frustrating as heck. So constantly having to switch those out and etc. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Fairuza? I think I speak for everyone when I say this.
Yeah, that is one quality of life that should have been put in, if not at launch, very soon after.
With
I'm glad.
one of their first major patches, exactly. And you know, it is what it is. We're here now. A lot of us stuck around. Maybe it does bring some people back to the game. I'm glad they're finally doing it. Thank you, Amazon, for giving us potentially one of the biggest quality of lives this game will ever have. It's actually that big, I think. I personally think so, and I wouldn't even use it much. I know Zachi's can't wait to see this. Zachi's gonna lose his collective mind when he sees the gear set UI for the first time. Exactly, Skull Kid. This is a big one. I'm excited. I only have 3 sets of gear. I have like I said, I have my main set of gear, my stone cutting set, and my tree cutting set. I have a couple other crafting and gathering pieces, but I have full sets in wood cutting and stone cutting.
We're going to introduce the Springtide Bloom.
New event. Yeah.
Visually,
It'd be kinda
aesthetically,
cool.
the set pieces
sounds
are
all right.
amazing.
I like
You want to talk a little bit
events,
about the
so-
event?
Okay.
Well, so when you go into town,
Fairuza's
like you
a
said,
sucker
we're
for
gonna do a
events.
full makeover of the towns again. Which
Again.
is going to be great.
It's true.
And then there's an
It's
activity
true.
where you go out.
She has no
you
shame.
Capture bugs, I think it is.
And he's wrong about this.
Most is fun to watch you struggle.
Oh, she takes a shot.
There's a spray where you capture bugs, I think,
Yeah,
and turn them
on
in
the
for
team.
tokens.
David missed. He was sick that day during when they had that meeting, for sure.
There's the whole store mechanic as usual, so you'll be able to choose which rewards
He
you buy.
was sick.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we do the world-changing events, those are a lot of fun.
That sounds
so we're
stressful,
Gonna keep doing
rustic.
those as we move forward because we know the players like it, and
That
we
sounds
like
like an unnecessary
visual interest
thing
that
you
they
have
bring
to
in.
do.
Yeah, and not to go backward, but like we talked about in the Winter Convergence, every time these events come back around on the calendar, we're going to make them a little better. We're going to lean into them a little more. We're going to apply more of the feedback. So the first one is pretty
I
exciting.
remember what it is. You harvest springtide
I
flowers,
remember what it
and
is.
there's bugs around, so you need a repellent to prevent it from the bugs.
It's brain
For
fun
the
to
players
find
to
out.
know, we're much better at this when we've played these, and these are right now not quite playable yet. So once they become playable, we'll be a lot better at commenting on them. And then the last thing is something that we talked about a little bit, which is we're going to do another round at our improving the main story.
They don't really go deep into this,
And,
but they tell us about
The
it.
response to what we saw with
I'm kinda looking
Windsward
forward
and
to
Monarch
this.
Bluff was
What
really
is it,
positive.
Brightwood and
So we're going to
Weaver's
just
Bay?
take that a
Yep.
little further, and if you want to go into some details.
Yeah, I
He's
mean, I
gonna-
think-
Dave's
so
gonna
the-
tell
the
us.
plan is to do it in the next 2 zones, so we'll do it in Weavers and Brightwood. And some of the big things we liked is we liked bringing the quests closer together, so there was less running, adding more quest variety, and there's also some cool encounter changes in there to bring in a little more of those open world boss fights. So
And I think some of the storytelling also is going to be a little more.
So basically, they're going to overhaul levels 30 to 40, the 30s. That's not much, I'll be honest. I was expecting more. They did 1 through 30 for the most part. I was expecting maybe 30 through 50 or 30 through 60 almost, and then they'd overhaul some of the end game questing in the end game zones, because that's still old school questing. The quests in Eden's Grove, Great Cleave, a little bit. What's it called? Shattered Mountain, etc. The questing's on the old style of questing. They haven't over. So I thought they would do it in 3 phases. I thought they would do 1 through 30, 30 through either 50 and 60, and then the end game. That's not Brimstone Sands. So it sounds like we're not going to get much more, which is a little disappointing to me.
Probably do 40 through 60. They'll probably do Eden Grove and Evanscale
40. That
and
makes sense, I guess.
leave the like unclaimable territories alone
To the end?
for the most
Okay.
part. Yeah, they
Mhm.
might just like streamline some of those quests.
Because you have to
But-
understand, they didn't talk about a couple of zones. Like, they didn't talk about Restless Shore. They didn't talk about Morningdale, Cutlass Keys. Those are all, like, Cutlass Keys is a 30s level 30s zone. And I think Restless Shore and Morningdale are 40s. And then you would move on to, like, Great Cleave and Eden Grove and then Shattered Mountain. So, but I mean, I don't know. I guess they only really overhauled 2.5 zones. It was because they got rid of First Light. Morningdale, they just made the level 20s, and then they redid all of Windward and Monarch's Bluff. So, I guess zone-wise... No, I mean, but Everfall is a lot of similar quests. They actually, a lot of that main story quest stuff with what's his name? I forget his name right now, is similar. They just like moved the locations and they made the quest better. They completely made new stories for Windsward and Monarchs. The story in Everfall is pretty much telling the same story. They just do a much better job of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like
streamlined.
Everfall, yeah, exactly. So Everfall didn't. I say a half because I don't feel like they actually changed the story as much as they just made it feel. They just told it better. Whereas Windsward and Monarchs, they made entirely brand new stories. They started from scratch in both. And the reason that matters is because originally the story was the same in every zone you started, and it led you to the Everfall story. Whereas now it's like an actual conflict or situation happening that you address, which I think makes sense because it eventually gives you foreshadowing to what you do in Everfall.
Yep.
So I was a little disappointed, but now that I put it in that perspective, that's kind of how much they worked on the first time. So maybe they're doing it like 2-3 zones at a time instead of whole swath of levels. You just cover a lot of levels in the first 3 zones. Whereas you 3 zones, you do 30 levels. The last 30 levels happen in like 7 zones. Like the first half of leveling is 3. Then you've got Weaver's Fen, Brightwood, Cutlass Keys, Restless Shore, Morningdale, Great Cleave, and what's the last one? Eden Grove. Because Eden Grove does have like high 50s. It's not all level 60s in Eden Grove. Eden Grove's where you hit 60 for the most part. Like that's where you end your leveling experience. That's 7 zones, guys. And so I was right. And then let's not forget, what's it called? Evanscale Reach. Evanscale Reach is another place you might finish your leveling. It's a lot like Eden Grove. There's like high 50s quests there. So that's actually 8. I would consider, what's it called, an endgame zone. The one in the bottom right that's a swamp. That one's kind of an endgame zone. I'm blanking on the name right now. Reekwater, thank you, Ikra. Reekwater is an endgame zone as well. I would put it on the same tier as Shattered Mountain. It just doesn't have the main story in it. It's got more of its own story. So we'll see how long it takes them, but they tell us that they are going to overhaul Weaver's Fen and Brightwood. I love Weaver's Fen. A lot of people hate it. And Brightwood, I love that spooky ghost setting. I don't know, which is funny. I hate scary stuff, but I love those settings. Those are probably my 2 favorite zones in the whole game, actually. Believe it or not. Although I really like
Weaver's Fen, but then actually I started questing there. That was like one of my main questing areas.
Exactly,
And,
Skull Kid.
I followed the story, and I really liked it.
Out of the old questing, out of the original storyline, Weaver's Fen I felt like had the best questing. I enjoyed questing in Weaver's Fen because of the stories and stuff they tell there. It's kind of neat. It all was the same quests, of course, but the genuine story they tell in Weaver's, I really enjoyed. So that's why it was my favorite zone. And Brightwood kind of has a similar thing to it. Now, Funny enough, I started doing the Brightwood story quests again, or the side quests during the event, RTA event, and I was like, man, I forgot how good this was. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do with those zones, because I actually feel like they've got a decent foundation when it comes to questing in those zones. I thought those were the best. The standard was kind of low, don't get me wrong, but I love all the rundown ghosts. It's dark. I understand, Skull Kid. That's why most people hate Weaver's Fen, because so frequently you're freaking hip high in swamp water, so you're walking slowly and it's a pain in the butt. I agree. That can be annoying. But
you think you can get across a bit of water and it's like,
and you
oh
can't.
nope, you're dead.
Nope. That is the most victims to drowning is easily in Weaver's Fen. But if you enjoy the time you're having there enough, you don't notice. And that's how I felt when I played it.
Crystallized for the players. It's going to be more clear.
For sure.
Yeah,
And full VO is big, right? So
And I think some of the story.
some cool encounters we liked is we liked bringing the quests closer together, so there was less running.
And if you want to go into some details.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The plan is to do it in the next two zones, so we'll do it in Weavers and Brightwood. And some of the big things we liked is we liked bringing the quests closer together, so there was less running, adding more quest variety, and there's also some cool encounter changes in there to bring in a little more of like those open world boss fights. So
And I think some of the storytelling also is going to be a little more crystallized for the players. It's going to be more clear.
for sure, and full VO is big, right? So every quest
That's
will be
true.
full
They're going to
VO.
voice over more
All right, well, that
quests.
takes us into summer. So
That's
my
in
hat
spring,
throwing
guys.
moment would be this first feature I'm going to talk about in
Do you
summer.
need a hat? Dave has a couple.
This is
There we
big.
go.
This is
My
a
hat
big
throwing
thing.
moment is going to be Transmog.
This is big.
This is something I've been
Everyone's
wanting
excited
for a
about
while
this
in the
one.
game. I
He
know
said the
some
word. He
players
said the
have
thing.
mentioned it.
I'm
The
smiling
ability
about
to have
Transmog.
agency,
Transmog a lot.
express yourself, however you want to call
This
it.
is
I'm
everyone.
So excited
This is
to get this
everyone.
in.
There's not a single
And,
person who's disappointed about this.
Yeah, I'm likely to want to keep some
I
of the
just
stuff I
hope
got
that
on the
they
beach.
add
I would
a
love to
way
wear.
to
So
dye
I'm really excited about getting
Sword
in and
skins.
decorating. Like
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about the stuff on the beach, but there's a lot of things around the world, like, Thorpe's helm. I would like to keep
Cool
that,
helmet.
but once you hit, it's good for a pretty long time, but once you hit level 50, it's and 60 for sure, it's not super great, but I like the way it looks, and I would love to still have that on my character's face right now. So I am holding on to it.
I think the collection mechanic's really cool, like being able to see all the potentials and like I'm gonna want to check them all off. This sort of
So he, first of all, cool little thing. He actually just leaked something by accident there. Those of you who don't realize, I think there's going to be a collection system in the game. He didn't say it, but it's kind of fun checking stuff on off the collection. He, by accident, Mr. David here, said something he probably shouldn't have, because he literally told us there's going to be a collection system, which to some people is really exciting. There's people out there who are like, I'm collecting this entire set, right? There in the MMO genre, there are the collectors, okay? In World of Warcraft, you got mount collectors, right? Like you see mount offs, that's a thing, dude. So he just accidentally told us there's going to be a collection system, not just the fact that you can, whatever gear you have, you can reuse. That also means you probably don't need to keep it. You can probably, once you have it in your collection, get rid of. I'm a Mount Mog. Exactly. See, Skull Kid gets it. So, fun fact, he just told us there's going to be a collection system.
That's kind of cool. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, Fairuza, what MMO in 2022 doesn't have a form of transmogrification? Which I'm pretty sure that phrase and verbiage, that term comes from World of Warcraft. I'm pretty sure it does.
Yes.
And it's just used across games now. Name an MMO that doesn't have it.
Oh, I don't think there is one.
Neither do I. I don't play all the MMOs, but I'm pretty dang confident there isn't a big enough, a main MMO that doesn't have give you the ability to change the look of your gear. Now, here's the thing. I always liked when gear looks good enough that I want to use it, but I like the ability to make fun and cohesive sets. I dig it. It's called Glams. I'm sorry, sir. I apologize. I will. I know better now. Okay, you've educated me. All right. I know better. I apologize. I'll do better next time. Okay. She talks about Thorpe's helm. There is a helmet in the game during the Return to Eternum event. There was this helm that dropped, and it's like it's a half mask that's a skull, and it's like this corrupted crown, and it's a heavy piece of armor, which I can't wear heavy to be light. But it fits one of the skins that the skin that they made with what's his name, Shroud. Who remembers when Shroud and one of the artists literally made a set of gear on stream? Does anyone remember that?
Yeah.
I
Crimson,
do.
Whatever.
And
Yeah.
it became a skin in the game that you could get. It became a Twitch drop, and I have it. And it's a pretty cool looking set. I don't like the helm whatsoever on it, but I do love the gown, and really that's about it. I love the gown, or the robe, sorry. This helm matches it perfectly. During the RTA, I found this helm, and I was wearing it, and I'm like, dude. And it matches the sets they just gave out in RTA, the spear and bow I was wearing, the red weapons they gave out. This set looked phenomenal. I kept wearing the helmet even though it was terrible. I was level like 43, and it was like level 30. And I just kept wearing it because I loved the way it looked. I can't wait for Transmog. Super excited. This is one of the. It's such a simple, pointless. I call it pointless. It doesn't impact anything really, but everyone loves it. This is an easy win for Amazon.
Fashion Wars is the real endgame.
The what?
Fashion Wars is the real endgame.
Fashion shows are already in the game. I've been to one. Fashion Wars.
Fashion War.
Right, but a fashion show is basically that, right? It's just glamorized. Have you ever been to a fashion show? They already exist, don't get me wrong. In New World, because skins exist, there's already fashion shows. I've been to a fashion show at Captain Jack Sparrow's house, and Kat Conti was one of the judges, and it was hilarious. Now, my limitations were just to skins and what I was wearing, though. I can't imagine how fun and exciting those are going to get. And I agree. Go ahead, Fairuza, say what you said earlier while the video was still playing about dyes.
Oh, I hope that they add a way to dye store skins because there are so many store skins that I would wear if I could dye them.
There's so many Twitch drops I would wear if I could change their colors. And here's the thing: there's no reason they can't. Like the dye, it's not like all the pieces of gear have 4 or 3 dye slots. It's not like they could simply do that and make the dye slots for the skins. They might have different patterns, etc., but they could still figure out what those dyes change and don't change. So, dude, exactly, Rustic. Being able to dye, I've heard this for some time now. Even like without even I don't even care if they don't give us transmog for a long time. Just let us dye skins, which is true. They could probably implement that pretty quickly. There's some skins that I think look sick, but their colors are awful. I'm like, I'd never wear those colors. No, thank you. But I'm bummed because I don't get to wear a cool looking piece of gear, or a cool skin. So I turn him next top warrior. So I agree. I hope with Transmog they give us the ability to dye skins. For some reason, I fear they won't. I just have this strange feeling they will not. But dyeing is a cool part of New World that I haven't seen in other games I've played, where you can even further customize your choices, right? You get to choose your gear in Transmog, but then you even get to choose what colors they are and the specific pieces that are colored. I think that's neat. I've never seen that in a game, actually. It's probably in games. I've just never seen it.
Great dye system right now, as far as like creating your dyes and stuff, that goes completely, for the most part, unused because very few people wear skins that are found in game.
Yep.
They always wear store skins.
Yeah. And I don't say anyone. I use like my chest piece and my pants, I think. Are the gear I'm wearing. The gloves I have and the boots I have are actually from the set you got for pre-ordering the game, funny enough. And the hat I'm wearing is a Twitch drop. So like you mix and match. And the only reason it worked that way is because the Twitch drop was the right color. You know what I mean? There's other Twitch drops I would like to use, but they're the wrong color. Dude, I think everyone would be down, Rustic. All right, let's finish up this roadmap, guys, and let's wrap up this episode with a bow.
Totally.
That's exciting.
Can't wait to min-max my way through Transmog.
Drew will have a
min-max my way through Transmog.
All right, well, the next one we're going to talk about
Nice camera work.
is raid groups.
Raid groups.
Raid groups is
He
big.
said the thing. Ding, 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 ding.
Big, literally, because it's a big group. Sorry. So raid groups
I
is
don't
an
care.
opportunity
A lot of people do.
4 different groups of players together to create 20-person groups. So
I
it's gonna
didn't
be
say
a way
ding,
to
ding,
sort of do
ding when he
larger
said
scale content.
transmog.
Which is a great segue
Yeah.
to our really cool thing that's
It is,
happening.
I was going
Ozzy.
to say, because why do we need raid groups?
I think
That
it's gonna be a
giant
lot of
thing you
fun.
see in Brimstone?
They've been
Well,
saying
you're
this for
finally
a
gonna get
while.
a chance to take it
They've been
down?
saying this for a while.
The Sandworm Elite Trial. So I'm very excited about this.
Sandworm's
What
gonna
is
be the
coolest
first raid
part about
boss,
this is it is
which I don't
going to
know
be
what
our
that means
hardest
exactly.
to date PvE content. Like
That
as we're
Sandworm is
designing it, I'm
going to
telling
be
people if we can
atrocious.
beat it internally,
not
it's
hard
too
enough.
easy.
If
Like, this-
they want this to be hard. Now, I get vibes of like, what was that game? Not Lone Star. Wildstar. I get Wildstar vibes when you have the idea of if it's too hard for us, if we can beat it in house, it's too easy. Because unfortunately, Wildstar didn't do well with really hard PvE content.
we want this to be like the ultimate.
But
so it gives
I
you
like
something
hard
to aspire
things.
to as a PvE person.
I
'Cause
liked
think
Wildstar.
PvP
also, and
players
I thought it was
have
cool.
wars and they have things where they can really flex their high-end gear.
This is true as well. I agree
PvE
with
players
this take.
don't have enough of that, and this is going to be like you need a fully coordinated group of 20 people. You need max everything to really defeat this.
I can't wait.
Great
It's going to be
question,
so
Sachi.
fun. And, we some of the ideas we've been tossing around are really
Gonna be
exciting.
some
And
good ones.
It's going to be good to put
Yep.
that into the rotation, along with elite chest runs,
Huge.
having the Sandworm Elite trial. It's going to be really exciting.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
just from the
Sandworm
moment
Elite
you see-
trial? Oh, it's going to be a trial.
Having the Sandworm Elite trial. It's going to be really exciting.
Okay, so it's going to be a trial.
yeah, just from the moment you see
It's going to be a trial. I missed that part watching it the first time. Okay. There's
So basically,
four
like a raid-
there's four well they changed those. It's funny enough. So they did this without saying anything. For those of you who don't know, there's 4 trials, right? You got the Spriggan, the corrupted Spriggan, you've got the Siren Queen, and one other one I can't remember the name of. I think it's 4. Is it 3? Maybe it's 3. Maybe it's those 3. Back in the day, when they were still talking about developing the game, trials were called arenas, which I thought was wild because I was like, well, what are they going to do when they introduce PvP arenas? Which obviously they did. Yeah, exactly. You just said the PvP arenas. Exactly. Without saying it anywhere. They just changed it in game and didn't speak a word of it. The arenas in game, the trials, so the trials in game used to be called arenas, and they were this really cool boss you had to fight. They're called trials now. They changed the verbiage everywhere. They're now officially called trials, which I think is a great name for it. But they did it so quietly. It makes me laugh that they just didn't need to announce that. They just changed it everywhere and everyone just flowed with it. No, I haven't heard anyone say anything. So I missed her
I
say
still thought
that.
they were called arenas. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. So they're going to make the worm a trial, which is kind of cool. So it's going to be a raid trial, which you need keys for trials, which I'm okay with some level of attunement in this game. I think attunements are cool. I thought that they should have kept attunements. I really thought they should have kept orbs for mutated expeditions. Like, there's got to be some level of attunement to difficult content. I think that's a lost art in MMOs.
it, tossing around are really exciting. And
It's going to be good to put that into the rotation, along with elite chest runs, having the Sandworm Elite trial. It's going to be really exciting.
yeah, just from the moment you see it, you want to
Yeah.
fight it. Like right now, I see it in
Yeah.
Brimstone, and I'm like,
There's
oh,
a
I can't
huge,
wait till summer.
like,
It's going to be awesome.
skill diversity
All
between
right, well, the
world
next one's
trade
another one that a lot of players
and
have
a
asked
raid.
for, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
I mean, to me, that was
Um,
like,
oh,
that
yeah.
didn't make any sense to me.
OPR cross.
Just
world.
throw it in your rotation, Fairuza. What do you mean? I'm sorry. I don't think everyone has raids and hardcore content on their
All right, well, the next
rotation.
one's another one. Yeah, just from the moment you see it,
You
know
know,
you want
maybe
to
some
fight it.
people
right
do,
now, I see
but
it in
I
Brimstone,
don't
and
think
I'm
a
like,
lot
oh,
of
I
people.
can't wait till summer. It's going to be
Not
awesome.
my rotation.
All right, well, the next one's another one that a lot of players have asked for, which is OPR cross world.
This is big
So
for
you'll be able
me.
to
I don't
against
play
other
OPR
people
much,
in your region in OPR.
but I'll probably play it more
goal
often
being
with
to get you
short
that content
queues.
faster. So if your server has queues waiting for OPR, they should be.
I can't wait for
faster.
cross
Or
server
if
on
your
arenas.
server has a queue
Now that's
and
what I'm
it's just
looking
not
forward to.
popping
Yep.
because it's off hours.
Mhm.
Now you're more likely to get
And it's
now. In
region based,
summer,
which
you'll be
makes
more
sense. So
likely to
basically,
get
you have a battle
more
group.
people into those queues
Everyone
that
in your
they can't
region, so
pop
the
more
pings are the
regularly.
same.
Yeah, and this is also
They do.
This is a gate to
Right
other
here.
things
Right
being
here,
cross-world.
Zachi.
Once we have OPR
Yep.
working,
I know they
it's
will.
feeling good. We start expanding that over time and bring other game modes into it. And I think it's going to help the game tremendously.
Yeah, our server team is watching every word that comes out of our mouth right now.
It's a natural progression, Zachi, that would happen. Like, I knew the moment, I know OPR was their focus for this, but I knew the moment OPR became cross server, it was only a matter of time before arenas did, because that's just an easy win. It just is. Stuff like that's been around forever. Cross instance like that. Yeah, exactly.
No commitments on timelines.
If it can support something as buggy as the OPR, arenas are fine. Stop it.
And then the last one we're going to talk about for the summer is the Summer Medley Fair. The next round of that. I think the last one was pretty fun. I had a good.
We're not going to cover that because it's pointless to just talk about the thing. That will make Fair happier. That's what she was just saying. Yeah, she's Rustic. She was talking in the video. You probably couldn't hear, but she says that's me too. I almost exclusively play arenas, Rustic. We're gonna go on New World soon in about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna go straight into arenas. So I'm super stoked about crossover technology for what it means for arena queues. They'll be snappy, and not just arena queues, but pre-made arena queues. Because right now on Marama or any not really high pop server, people don't queue often in pre-made 3v3s, because if you're a full group of 3 for arenas, you only get matched against full groups, which I'm cool with that setup. I think that's smart. But the problem is not a lot of people do it because the queues take too long to find other people with full groups. So most people just opt to go in groups of 2 or by themselves, so they have short queues, because the queues for duo and solo are relatively short most of the day, at least on our server. So 5 more, yeah. And so when that comes to arenas, I feel like people will start seeing more three pre-made groups, because they know that their pool of pre-made groups is much larger, so they'll be willing to try it. So I'm most excited about, because I want to get some legit pre-made groups together where it's me and 2 other people in Discord, and we're going up against other really good pre-mades.
Good time with it, the music.
Oh, I don't play. Sorry. So that's why I'm most excited about it. Right, Fairuza?
Absolutely. I mean, for the most part, I only solo queue, so anything that will make queues slow or quicker will be a boon.
What will be?
Anything that will make a queue faster.
To do what faster? Queue faster? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, it was like cutting out. Yes, anything that makes queues faster, definitely a boon. Absolutely. Fantastic. Shorter queues, always a dub. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of A Whole New World podcast. And I'm really glad I did it. I'm glad a lot of you are here. For those of you who are returning, who have been around the show for a long time, I'm really glad you're here. New faces. It was really nice to see some new faces in chat, because I did. I hope you come back to watch another future episode. I will be making a video next week on something that wasn't covered in this video, unfortunately. So look out for those, guys. I love doing New World News. So keep an eye. This will end up on YouTube in the next day or 2. I will put this up on YouTube probably on Saturday. So if you want to go back and see anything, or if you want to show it to anyone, it'll be on my YouTube in a couple days. And with all that out of the way, we're gonna call it a close. This was awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me, Jafar.
Fairuza, I'm honored that you were here tonight. Thank you so much.
It
Guys,
was my pleasure. Thank you.
if you don't know who Fairuza Goes is, what are you even doing? Go check her out on Twitch, on Twitter, other things socials. She's fantastic. She's the potato queen. We wouldn't have her any other way. So please show her some love. She's a real one.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
If you made it to the end of the video, you're a freaking legend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And also, please follow me on Twitter and twitch.tv. Later.